Topic of my talk is importance of ocean services for the blue economy of India. Because when we go for more of activities in the ocean, we should plan those activities, and to plan those activities, we should have information services like the weather service. When we plan any activity, the weather forecast comes in picture, and that helps us planning it properly. As the previous speakers had mentioned, India has a vast maritime estate. We have a long coastline of more than 8,000 kilometers and 2.37 million square kilometers of exclusive economic zone. And all these waters around us are used for transportation, fishing, dumping of industrial waste and sewage, and extraction of oil and gas. And several ports are located on our coastline, and the beaches are used for the recreational purposes. And blue economy depends on the activities in these waters. Safe conduct of human activities in these waters demands their understanding and prediction. We have the legal continental shelf, as Dr. Rajan has mentioned. Additionally, we have 0.6 million square kilometers if this claim is accepted by Seabed Authority. Similarly, we have the ferromanganese nodules, that area which you can see here, that has been leased out to Government of India by Seabed Authority. So we should be prepared to meet all these challenges. But then our challenges are, in the next decade, is realize the potential economic benefits of the marine estate while maintaining social and environmental values. And our policy makers and managers are required to responsibly evaluate the trade-offs between economics, social values and environmental sustainability. But the difficulty arises due to the lack of knowledge about our vast, varied marine systems, their resources, and how their ecosystems function. Already we know that we have the issues like coastal flooding, change in the inundation and the coastal erosion, and also the acidification of the oceans. So these threats have profound growing impacts on our society, and all this need to be taken in consideration when we start depending more on the oceans for our economic growth. The physical and geochemical environment of our EZ and oceans around us are extraordinarily complex. It ranges from strong tidal flows, currents, cyclones, huge swells arriving from on our coast from the Southern Ocean, etc. And to facilitate safe navigation for our maritime trade routes, manage fisheries, resource rescue missions, and defense activities successfully in these waters, it is necessary to understand and predict the waves, currents, tides, and other oceanographic phenomena. Right now, we have the mechanisms to predict the tides all along the coastline at the several ports in advance. Similarly, the waves we can predict using the mathematical models which have been developed for our areas, and we can predict the waves which are arriving from the Southern Ocean in advance and provide the information to the coastal population so that they can cut down on the losses of their property, especially the fishermen living on the coast. They can secure their boats and fishing nets. Similarly, we have the ability now to forecast at a very high resolution the entire water column around our Indian shores. And also we have the ability now, if something is lost in the sea, where to search for that. We know where it was lost, a fishing boat or a man overboard went, or any other object has been lost. Now, how to plan the search? For that purposes, we have the ability and we have the search and rescue aid tool for that. Similarly, we know that oil spills are occurring in our waters, Once the oil spill occur, it has to be removed, and also we should be able to predict where that oil spill will move and which part of the coast will get affected by that oil spill. So we have the abilities to do that now, and also the ability to forecast, provide forecasts for the fishing routes, so that the ships can use these forecasts and plan their navigational activities. So that we have now. Like this, we have several products. Right now, there are 43 customized products which are being used by different stakeholders, whether it is a fisherman, oil and gas industries, or the shipping, or the ports and harbors, navy or coast guard. So there are ocean services which are available for various aspects, and definitely these services will boost the blue economy, the activities pertaining to the blue economy. In addition to that, we have the problem with the storm surges following a cyclone, especially along the Andhra coast. We have seen in 2014 in Visakhapatnam, when the Hadhad cyclone had a landfall on the Visakhapatnam. So we have the ability to forecast the cyclones right now, as well as to provide the accurate storm surge and the kind of village, the number of villages which will get inundated due to this storm surge. This information can be provided to the disaster managers, and they can evacuate the population from those villages in advance, reducing the loss of life or loss of properties. And the most important, though it is very infrequent, the tsunami early warnings. In 2004, when the tsunami occurred in the Indian Ocean, we never had any capability to forewarn the tsunamis. But right now, we have the full capability to provide the tsunami early warnings. We have an Indian tsunami early warning system functioning from Hyderabad, which uses the seismic network as well as tsunami buoys or the bottom pressure recorders, and the tide gauge network, and the mathematical models to predict the tsunamis, but only it can be done only after the large earthquake occurs on the seabed. And the networks are being set up to reach this information at the earliest. Now, this is the picture of a tsunami warning center, and you can see that since its inception in September 2007, totally 437 large earthquakes, the earthquakes which have magnitude greater than 6.5 have been detected by this center, and out of that 88 were in the Indian Ocean, and this center is maintaining the targeted requirements, how fast this information should be provided to the disaster management agencies as well as the population along the Indian coast. For example, there were 7 major events which necessitated tsunami warnings for those instances, and the center provided those tsunami warnings within first 10 minutes of the earthquake occurring, so that there is sufficient time for the evacuation of the population from the coast. And also we have we are providing the potential fishing zone advisories to the fishermen, and several fishermen in India use these advisories to plan their fishing, and the success rate is more than 80%, and the profit earned by the fishermen are 3 to 4 times, otherwise they would have earned the profits. There are independent studies which points that the potential fishing zone advisories, if it is used by the fishermen, it can have it can add to our economic growth or economic GDP to the tune of 34,000 to 50,000 crore, and similarly it can save the diesel, because the fishermen don't go out and search for the fishing ground because they are told where to go for fishing, so they save the diesel, and that itself is a large saving. And also we can cut down on the carbon dioxide emission using these potential fishing zone advisories. There are other studies which did a complete study of the various services and you can see that the kind of economic benefits due to the ocean state forecast or due to the potential fishing zone advisories, it is in the trillions of rupees it can save and it can boost our blue economy. Similarly, Indian Coast Guard uses the services like search and rescue tool as well as oil spill contingency plans, and Indian Navy also uses. Similarly, the providing the though there is no tsunami occurring, but telling the population there is no need of panic and no need of evacuation is required. That itself saves. One estimate says that each evacuation would have costed the government something like 3,500 crore. So that's a saving if there is a warning that there is no need of evacuating the population. Similarly, the biodiversity conservation and ecosystem health and coastal monitoring and prediction system of ICMAM, which has been carried out over the last 2 decades, and a new system which is being proposed along the Indian coast, which will be helpful for monitoring the biodiversity as well as the ecosystem health and provide the information on the coastal waters of India. And we know that the climate change is happening, and we had to prepare for how to deal with this climate change, especially the climate change is reflecting the increasing temperature, rising sea levels, and change in circulation patterns and increasing ocean acidity and changing frequency of extreme events. Right now the estimate says that the 93% of the extra heat which we are putting into into our system is absorbed by the ocean. So ocean is becoming more and more, actually the oceans are protecting us to the large extent from the kind of warming otherwise we would have faced. So 93% of the heat is absorbed by the ocean, and the bad part of that is, if you look at these two graphs, you can see that from the Pacific Ocean, lot of heat is getting transferred to the Indian Ocean, or for the last several years, especially from 2003 onwards, the Indian Ocean is warming at a much faster rate. So this will definitely have effects on our monsoons and our weather in the Asian region. So this is another aspect which we had to worry about. So let me conclude by the security, safety and natural hazards, enhancing operational oceanographic forecasting, energy security that is required, which Dr. Atmanand has talked about for the blue economy, support for developing energy resources, particularly renewable energy, and the food security which Dr. Meena Kumari had talked about, and biodiversity and conservation and ecosystem health, which Dr. Meena Kumari also spoke about, which is important for the for the growth of blue economy, and dealing with the climate, changing climate, refine the understanding of the impacts. We should know in this climate change days how it is going to impact us and where it is going to take us, and the planning, optimal resource allocation and planning, and that is what is required by the policy makers and decision makers. And so the oceans are important and the blue economy is important, and more countries are turning towards the ocean for their economic growth, and India is no way behind for looking in the oceans for the economic growth, as our Honorable Prime Minister has told that we have to look at the oceans and the resources, vast resources which are available in the oceans for the economic growth of our country and to feed our 1.3 billion population in our country. So we had to monitor the pulses of ocean for the well-being of the nation. Thank you very much.